Occupational fraud. Occupational fraud refers to any act of dishonesty committed by employees or officials for personal gain, such as embezzlement, bribery, and financial manipulation. Impact of occupational fraud. Fraud not only drains a country's economy, but also undermines business trust and deters foreign investment. South Africa's fraud challenges. South Africa is facing a high rate of corporate fraud due to a history of weak enforcement, despite improvements in anti-corruption efforts. Nigeria's with fraud. Nigeria suffers from significant occupational fraud in both the public and private sectors, fueled by systemic corruption and weak regulatory frameworks. Kenya's corporate fraud. Kenya has experienced an increase in workplace fraud, especially in government procurement and the financial sector, highlighting the need for stronger oversight. Egypt's corruption crisis. Egypt has struggled with corruption, with widespread fraud among both public employees and private businesses, especially in sectors like construction and health. Morocco's fraudulent practices. Morocco's economy faces challenges related to tax fraud and misreporting, particularly in the informal sector, where many businesses are not regulated. Tanzania's fraud. Fraud in Tanzania is primarily seen in the misuse of government funds and financial mismanagement by state employees, with increasing reports of bribery in the public sector. Ghana's fraud rates. As Ghana's economy grows, occupational fraud has become a growing concern, especially in industries like banking, insurance, and government contracting. Uganda's efforts to fraud. Despite rising fraud rates in Uganda's business sector, the country has implemented measures like the Anti-Corruption Court and the Uganda Revenue Authority to tackle fraud. Zimbabwe's struggle with fraud. Zimbabwe's business landscape suffers from significant fraud, especially in state-owned enterprises, contributing to the country's challenges. Fraud in Nigeria's banking sector. Nigeria's banking sector is particularly vulnerable to occupational fraud, with cases of loan fraud, embezzlement, and insider trading making headlines. The role of corruption fraud. High levels of corruption in many African countries exacerbate the problem of occupational fraud, creating an environment where illegal practices can thrive unchecked. African governments to fraud. Governments across Africa are working with international organizations to implement stronger anti-fraud laws, conduct audits, and hold fraudulent actors accountable. Impact fraud on small businesses. Small and medium-sized enterprises (SMEs) in Africa are particularly vulnerable to fraud due to lack of resources to implement proper internal controls and oversight. Transparency International fighting fraud. Transparency International and other NGOs play a significant role in exposing fraud in African countries and advocating for stronger anti-corruption measures. Thanks. Don't forget to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more.